everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Find Your Strong podcast. Today, I'm flying solo, and I am so excited to speak to the incredible Emily Williams from Everybody Outdoors. I came across Everybody Outdoors when I read an article in The Guardian, and I went straight to their website and followed them on social media because I love everything they stand for. But I'm going to let Emily introduce herself and Everybody Outdoors to you herself. Hi, Emily. Welcome.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm very well, and I'm so excited to speak to you today.
Likewise, likewise. Yeah, so I am Emily Williams. I'm based up in Inverness in the Highlands. So I'm very fortunate to have lots of access to lots of really amazing outdoor space. And I'm one of the co-founders of an organisation called Everybody Outdoors, who are fighting for clothing and gear and representation for plus size people and bodies in the outdoor space. So any sort of outdoor sports like walking or running or canoeing or cycling, just trying to work to break down the barriers that plus size people face in accessing all of those places.
Fantastic. And I think that is a real lack of that, isn't there? I mean, I work in a space where I work with a lot of plus size people who often find it really, really hard to find the right gear, the right clothes. And also there's a real lack of representation. So tell me a little bit about how you got into this.
So there are five of us who co-founded Everybody Outdoors, and we met on the internet probably about 3 years ago now. So I think we were all separately ranting on Instagram or Facebook. Me, it was not being able to get a wetsuit. And Steph kind of brought us all together. We had this sort of phone call where we were like, right, well, we have to do something about this. And, I guess we'd all looked over at the States, and there's loads of groups over there, like there's the All Bodies on Bikes and there's Unlikely Hikers. And we were like, well, there's nothing like that in the UK. So we'll start an Instagram page. So we started an Instagram page, and, within a day we'd hit like 1,000 followers. And
Wow.
like, so the response was just
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. So I think, we hit on a really, the right time when there was just a real need for that.
Mm.
And like I say, it's just great. It's just grown from there. So we do all sorts of things now.
Tell me more. What do you do then?
So I guess really what we're interested in is, so I came into it really motivated from the kit point of view.
Mhm.
So I've always done outdoor stuff. Like my husband is really, he's a fell runner and a cyclist, and I'm more into cycling and canoeing and swimming.
Mhm.
Um, so I've always had a network of friends who have accepted me, and I've just always gone and done it. It's part of my life. It has been ever since I started university and joined like the Expedition Society in Bristol. And so I've never really questioned my place in the outdoors because it's just an intrinsic part of how I live my life. But that's not how it is for a lot of people. And if I'm totally honest, I've never really engaged with like the outdoor industry side of things. I've never felt that speaks to me or caters to me.
Mhm.
So I've always struggled to find kit that works as well for me as the kit I see my husband, who's like a men's size small, like little ultra distance trail runner. Uh,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, I just want to be warm and dry
Mhm.
when I go out and do things. So for me, my motivation was all about getting people to expand the size range of the kit that they were producing, and particularly the goods kit. Because
Mhm.
when you look at it, there's most brands go up to a size 16. What a size 16 is obviously varies brand by brand. And that difference gets more crazy the further up the size chart you go. It's like the wild west of random sizing by the time you get to a size 24. Um,
Mhm.
but what you notice is none of it's the good kit. So everybody, a lot of so 3 years ago, a lot of companies were making one budget waterproof in a size 18 or 20, but not all their range. I wanted a really lightweight, packable, waterproof coat for bike packing in Scotland,
Mhm.
but I still don't have one. Got closer to that goal than I was before, but I still don't really have the one that I want because it's not available. So for me, it was about like what I want is really good quality performance kit so that I can do the adventures that I want to do. Um, because it's really limiting, if you, especially if you live in Scotland and you want to
Mhm.
go bike packing. I have only ever really been able to do that at the last minute because I either need to put panniers on my bike and carry more kit because it's bigger and it's heavier, or I just need to plan it when I know the weather's going to be reasonable and I'm unlikely to get really wet and therefore really cold. So,
Gosh.
I find that it limits what I plan to do. And then obviously if you leave things to the last minute, just less stuff happens because everybody's busy
Yeah.
and your
Yeah.
son's got a birthday party that he has to go to and you just end up, staying
Yeah.
at home instead.
Yeah.
So that was my, and then I guess since I've been involved in it, I've got really, really passionate about the power of representation and
Mhm.
just how important it is for people to see bodies like theirs moving and doing stuff in the outdoors. And I've become acutely aware of how little of that there is. Like, it's just, once you start looking, it's mind blowing how rarely you see a plus size person anywhere in the outdoors, like magazines, films, media, anything.
Yeah, I mean, the media is there's so little representation of plus size bodies, full stop, in any way, shape, or form. There is just not enough of
Yeah,
of you know different sized bodies out there. But yeah, I mean, with in terms of the outdoor activities that you do, it sounds like it can be incredibly limiting if you haven't got the kit. It can be dangerous to go out into the lochs and
yeah,
not have the
absolutely.
right waterproof, warm clothes that you need.
Yes. So like, the basic fundamental garment for accessing the outdoors is a decent waterproof coat.
Mm-hmm.
And that I view that as a safety
Mm-hmm.
requirement because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, especially if you're out in the hills and the weather turns and it's wet and you get cold,
Yeah.
that can be really, really dangerous. And I do often, you read these reports from mountain rescue about how, they've helped someone down off the hill and there'll be a sort of comment about how they weren't properly equipped.
Mm-hmm.
And in the back of my head is, I wonder if they're plus size, because if they're plus size, there's probably a very good reason why they're under equipped. Because I have done plenty of what we like to call business casual hiking in my
Mm-hmm.
time. You know, you go to Marks and Spencer's or another and you buy yourself a wool jumper and like
Mm-hmm.
some leggings that look like they're quick drying, and you just cobble together what you can that's in your size if you can't buy the performance clothes that you really want.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's other things. It started off for me with the waterproof coat, which is the basic. But
Mm-hmm.
if you want to do water-based activities and you can't get a PFD, so a personal flotation device that
Mm-hmm.
fits well,
Mm-hmm.
you want to go climbing, you need to have a harness that fits.
Yeah.
So I can't currently fit into the largest harness on the market for women.
Mm. Mm.
Um, which means unless I go somewhere that has sort of specialist kit and really
Mm-hmm.
caters for that, I'm unlikely to be able to go climbing. So it does really limit people's options and their ambitions.
Yeah. So they basically have to stop before they even get started with the
Yeah,
whole
absolutely.
even just thinking about it, there's just no, for a lot of people, I would imagine, because of the lack of representation and because of the worry about finding the right kit. I would imagine it puts people off before they even kind of form the idea in their head, like, oh, I'd really like to
Yeah.
do that, because it's just not accessible. It's just not available
No,
to them.
and then I mean, there are. I'm really happy to say that there are
Mm-hmm.
much better options available in the UK now than there were 3 years
Mhm.
ago when we started. So
Mhm.
there is definitely a willingness from parts of the industry to engage and
Mhm.
to improve things. And we're not yet that we're not there
Mhm.
yet,
Mhm.
but it is an improvement from a
Mhm.
very low baseline. um,
Yeah.
but it would be hard to
Yeah.
not improve if I'm being totally honest. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's that double. But the options that there are overwhelmingly online, and
Right.
so if you walk into it, you think, you've plucked up all of your courage, and you think, I'd really like to go up a hill,
Mhm.
and I need a waterproof coat, and you go into any of the outdoor shops,
Mm.
you will probably find that there's nothing above a size 18, 16 to 18. Um, like one of the organisations partnered with Cotswold Outdoors now does have,
Yeah.
I think, 20 stores across the country which have a selection of plus size kit, and they are working, really proactively to expand that. But that's new in the last 3 years. So at the
Right.
point where we started this, I don't think I'd been into an outdoor shop for about 15 years, because I knew that as somebody who's a size 20, that there would be nothing in there that I could buy. So I just didn't go.
So you didn't
Uh,
go.
yeah.
Right.
So then you've got to have the knowledge to be able to go on the internet and really search for those activities. So the barrier, that initial barrier to starting, is so much higher.
It really
Uh,
is. So, in terms of your advocacy and your work with different brands, have you found that some are completely shutting down on any of those suggestions that you might have, or on any of the sort of requests to be more size inclusive, or are they generally open to it but are actually not pulling their finger out? Or what's your experience with them
I
so
would say
far?
it's mixed. Um,
Hmm.
so I guess the first thing to acknowledge is that expanding your size range in a thoughtful and meaningful way is a massive investment. So it's a
Hmm.
massive cost.
Hmm.
And it makes ordering more complex, and it takes a lot of time. Like, I mean, it's not unusual for that process of having the idea that you would like to, make one size larger, to actually producing it and getting it in the country, to be 2 years long. And I think
Hmm.
that's probably harder since, the pandemic, than it was
Hmm.
beforehand, because I don't think supply chains are still quite where they used to be. So it is an investment, and it is a lot of effort, and we really recognize that, and
Hmm.
it's so we have always said that we would engage with anybody who is taking meaningful steps along that journey. um yes, sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable going, yay, look at this brand, they're doing a thing in a size 20, when you
Hmm.
know that you've got people up to a size 30 in your community. But
Hmm.
unless you can support people along that way and shout out where they are doing things while going, yeah, this is not really where we want to finish, but it's a good
Hmm.
start, guys. It's a really good start.
Hmm.
But, different brands are doing things in really different ways. And I think that's what we need. There is no one right way to do it.
Hmm.
It's just encouraging people to think about, okay, so we're making a decision about expanding our sizes,
Hmm.
and how we do that is always going to exclude somebody. But let's be conscious about that decision and think about who we're including and who we're excluding.
Hmm.
So, for example, Alpkit I don't think they're quite finished yet, but they're aiming to produce their whole range in a size 20,
Hmm.
which is pretty groundbreaking. Like, I don't
Hmm.
think there's any other brand I can think of that's aiming to do their whole range in an
Hmm.
expanded size. Whereas, like, for example, RAB have partnered with Cotswold Outdoors to produce a plus size range. And so they've chosen, I think, 7 or 8 key items that are available up to a size 24. So,
Hmm.
everybody's going to make a different choice. None of them are wrong. We just need
Hmm.
more people to join the party.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you research kit, as in this is really good quality stuff and I would like that in my size, thank you very much, and then approach the companies, or how do you go about it? Because there must be some really good outdoor clothing and kit makers that you think, actually, these are the guys that I want on my side. These are the guys I want to produce things that I can actually
Yeah,
wear and buy.
we do a mixture of both. So we have
Mhm.
brands that reach out to us to say,
Great.
you know, we're beginning to do a piece of research about what the plus size market might look like. Would you be able to
Hmm.
contribute to that?
Hmm.
Um, we spend a lot of time, so we have a really, really active Facebook group, which is only for plus size people,
Hmm.
because we want that to be want that to be an atmosphere where anybody can ask any question without having what's usually a very, very well-meaning thin person give them an answer that's just really dispiriting.
Hmm.
They've
Hmm.
misunderstood, just don't have that lived
Hmm.
experience. Um, and yes, you get a lot of people asking for recommendations in there about, who's got this sports bras, wetsuits, waterproof coats,
Hmm.
leggings, walking trousers, whatever it is. And so I keep a really close eye on that, and I try and follow up with any brands that I'm not aware of to try and get kit to test and review, because one of our really important functions is actually testing and reviewing the kit that is
Hmm.
available and trying to spread the word, because they are, a lot of them, small, maybe direct to customer businesses that maybe
Hmm.
just don't have the reach that the bigger companies do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and sometimes we've not had much luck going cold to a company going, do you want to, are you planning to increase your price range?
Mm.
But we are working with a lot, or in conversation with a lot of brands. So that is definitely, and I think the partnership with Cotswold Outdoors as a retailer
Mhm.
um, has also been, because one of the things that we recognise from brands
Mhm.
is that, well, it's all very well making this stuff, but if the retailers don't stock it,
Mhm.
then that's also a non-starter. So having a retailer on board who's really proactive about that has been really, really useful. And
Yeah.
that's really borne out with the partnership they've come up with RAB for this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great to have those big names on board because everybody knows them. But I really like the idea of working with the smaller companies where you can actually um really make a difference, probably a bit more quickly, right? Because the big ones, there's so much red tape that you have to get through and so many,
Yeah, and
you know.
there's a balance. So I think
Mm.
with the big brands, there is more. They're a little bit less nimble, but they've
Mhm.
possibly got more money, and they've certainly got bigger minimum orders.
Mm.
So, there's so many layers to it that I didn't know about when I started, but
Mm.
minimum orders in sizes, minimum number of sizes. So, I mean, if you do more sizes, your minimum order has to be bigger. And if you're a small
Mhm.
company, you've got to finance that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, it is a real mixed bag, but it's lovely when somebody recommends something that you
Mhm.
didn't know about.
Mhm.
And you can go, I mean, I spend a lot of time on the internet looking at outdoor kit.
Mhm.
Um, so finding somebody new that's doing something exciting is always like one of those really like happy moments.
Oh, I bet. I bet. I get that a lot. I sort of I work for Body Image Fitness up in Newcastle, which isn't an outdoor activity specific platform, but it is a size inclusive fitness platform
Yeah,
where there's often questions about, well, where can I buy leggings in a size 30? Where can I get a sports bra? Where can I buy those things?
yeah,
And it's really interesting to hear, the experience people had trying things and exploring and experimenting. But as you said earlier, a lot of it is online. A lot of it means that you have to do a real real long research to find the thing, try it
Yeah,
on, it doesn't fit, it's probably not the right shape. Whereas if you're in a straight size, you go into a shop, you try three things on, one of them fits, you leave the shop and you're done. It
yeah,
just seems that there's just so much more effort that you need to put in
yeah.
to get
And
what
then,
you need.
and I think that the upside of that for brands is like, I don't think they understand the level of brand loyalty they can win from plus size
Mm,
people by making something good.
yeah,
You know, there's
yeah.
companies that I've bought something from, and I will literally go back and buy their new stock when it comes out, because
Mm,
if you look at your average outdoor retail website, you might have 150 choices of coats in size 12,
mhm,
and you might have like 5 in size 18 and none in size 22. So you don't
mhm.
have to do very much to be the standout like
Yeah.
manufacturer in, like, especially once you get above a size 20,
Yeah,
like, the
yeah,
competition is really thin on the ground.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
but you have to make a meaningful attempt to engage with plus size people, to tell them that you're making, have to make it easy for them to find, you know.
yeah.
um there's nothing where, I have had conversations with people and they're like, oh well, we tried making a size 18 jacket but it didn't sell. And then you dig into that a little bit deeper and you discover that you go on their website and you can't filter their website by size. So for a plus size person to find that
Mm,
coat, they've got to click
mm,
on all the coats and look at all, and then click on sizes to find out which size they are. So you've got to do a lot of searching through that website to even
right.
find that one option. Whereas in reality, what's going to happen is you click on the first coat, you get only go to size 16 and you stop looking.
Yeah.
Um, you look down their social media feed, there's not a single photo of anybody who's bigger than a size 10.
Mhm,
And then, like, it's like, well, how are you going to sell it? You don't, they probably also didn't stock it in like physical shops. So
mhm,
um, it's like it's doomed to fail
mhm.
unless you go to the places where plus size people are and tell them that you're making the kit.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that something that you also kind of talk about when you approach different brands? As in,
Yeah,
look, it's
yeah,
great if you're making that coat for me. However, if you don't show me in that coat on your socials, on your website, in
yeah.
adverts,
And we
then
always say that one of the biggest impacts a brand can have for the least amount of investment is simply to photograph their existing stock in the largest size on a model.
yeah, yeah.
Um, if you go up to a size 16 and suddenly half of your photos on your website are of people who are size 16, that is a massive,
Mhm,
massive transformation,
mhm,
and is not nearly the investment that, bringing a whole new size range to market is.
mhm.
Um, and maybe you're even really brave and you put it in an advert.
Well, wouldn't that be lovely? But
I
yeah,
know,
that's
but
such a
it's about that thing of
yeah,
like really
yeah,
consciously just think about who are your influencers, who are you
yeah,
supporting.
yeah,
Find some people who are at the upper end of your range, because they're out there. There are people of all sizes doing
yeah,
really amazing things. So
yeah,
go and find them and publicize it.
yeah,
Show your kit on people of different sizes. And you
yeah.
don't have, if there were photos of people in size 16 all over the place, I would be more likely to buy it because I'm just like,
Mm,
if you show photos, especially photos of people enjoying themselves outside looking
outside.
happy,
Yeah,
then yeah, it's marketing gold.
absolutely. And do you know what? I think that should be a sort of a standard thing for people to adopt to make that, if you go onto a website and you click on clothes, to have a range of sizes, not just
Yeah.
start with the size 10 and everything is in size 10 and then you have to check the sizes. Just go with the larger sizing on the photos, and then
Yeah.
people in
The ones
smaller
I
bodies
really,
can do the same, right? They can click on it and see if it's available in a size 10,
so
right?
the ones that I really like are where you click on, say, say you've got some trousers and you've
Hmm.
maybe got 3 different models wearing those
Hmm.
trousers, and it will tell you this person, I don't know, I think the example I always use for is a Swedish company called Astrid Wild,
Oh
who
yeah.
do this really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll have 2 or 3 models for each item of clothing they sell. They tell you what size the model is wearing.
Mm-hmm.
Their basic measurements, their sort of bust, hips, height,
Mm-hmm.
and inside leg often as well. That's
Mm-hmm.
really important. But then they also publish all of the actual sizes of their clothing. So they don't just give you a detailed size chart so that
Mm-hmm.
you can measure yourself and go, yeah, I would fit this. They also give you the measurements of the actual clothes. If that's a non-stretch item, that's really, really important
Yeah.
because, so for example, if you're buying a waterproof coat,
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmingly, really, really overwhelmingly, those are designed for people who have 5 centimeters or 2 inches difference between their bust and their hip measurement.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that I've got a 10-inch difference between my
Mm-hmm.
bust and my hip
Mm-hmm.
measurement. Right? So automatically, I'm having to pick a size based on my hip measurement, which is going to be too big around the top. But
Yeah.
if you tell me actually how big that is, then
Mm-hmm.
I can make a much more informed choice because there will be a certain amount of
Mm-hmm.
ease, like or extra fabric,
Mm-hmm.
factored into them, because you need to have some space so that it all moves around you. So
Mm-hmm.
telling people having accurate size charts and telling people the size of the garments,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they're non-stretch, is really, really valuable because it just simplifies that process of buying online, which as a plus size person you are basically forced to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good idea, actually. Such a good point. It kind of leads me on to something that I wanted to ask you, and that hopefully you can share a little bit about. I was very privileged to have a little sneaky preview of the wonderful short film that you made, or you had made about a little trek that you and a friend of yours went on, and the thing that kind of led me to think about it is something that really stood out to me in the film where your friend who's in a smaller body went into a shop, looked at everything, picked what she liked, bought it, and left the shop. And then there was a scene of you sitting on the computer starting the research. Where can I get my kit? So
Yeah. So this is my epic search for a pair of dry trousers.
oh gosh.
So for context, people who don't know, dry trousers are like, it's a pair of trousers that are dry. So they have integrated socks that are waterproof so that you can paddle to your heart's content in as
Amazing.
many boggy or wet places as possible without getting trench foot because you're doing it for 4 days. um, so so the trip that I went on was across the middle of Lewis, which is in the Outer Hebrides. And as I said before, we were making a film and it felt really short notice. We had 6 weeks to plan it, and we filmed it last September. But that meant that we had no idea what the weather was going to be like when we
Mhm.
were there. So, like I said, contrary to my usual approach of doing these things sort of at the last minute
Mhm.
when the weather's okay, I was like, well, I have to go and do this, whatever. Like, Emily, why did you say yes to that? What have you got yourself into, you muppet? So yeah, I mean, and again, that process for me involves Googling,
Mhm.
looking at, like I say, a lot of looking at size charts, like what does extra large mean for this
Mhm.
manufacturer, because it's different for the other manufacturer, and maybe one of them will fit me. It won't be a surprise if they didn't.
Mhm.
um I am, I guess, I've always had a big bum and generous thighs, so to my real pinch point for fitting trousers is always, do I have enough movement around the top of my thigh?
Mm.
And eventually I did a bit of online research. I started looking for custom models. I asked in our Facebook group, and eventually that led me to a company called Reed Chilcheater, who are, quite frankly, amazing. That was a really positive experience. I had a lovely interaction with them when I was buying my trousers. So they were totally custom sized for me, which was
Oh,
really
wow.
exciting. I've got quite short legs, so it was actually
Hmm.
really exciting to have a pair of short trousers.
Brilliant.
But and you know, there's an extra charge for that, but
Yeah.
it's not astronomical
Okay.
compared to some of the other options. I mean,
Right.
custom dry suit, like a lot of people have dry suits custom made, I think, because the
Hmm.
whole body length, leg length, size thing is not obviously related. Um,
Hmm.
you know, us
Hmm.
shorter people
Hmm.
are well aware that, you know, just because I'm a size 22 doesn't mean that I'm like 6'2". I'm
Hmm.
actually still only 5'3". And my legs are quite short. You know, yeah. So it, but again, that the amount of research. So I have to research. I have to get my husband to take like a really extensive list of measurements.
Hmm.
30% off. It takes 3 weeks to arrive, which
Hmm.
I was really pleased about. I was a little bit worried that getting something custom made in that 6 week window wasn't going to work out.
Hmm.
But they worked really well, and I was very happy.
Brilliant. So tell us a little bit about that trip. What did you do? How long were you out for? What did you actually do?
So, yeah, I guess the genesis of the trip. So, I have been talking about this trip with my friend Lisa, say in a quite abstract way, as in, I've had this idea, that would be really fun. And she'll go, yeah, that would be really fun. Maybe we should do it one day. And then, you know, every year or two,
Hmm.
we would kind of circle back round to this conversation. And she used to live in Inverness and then she moved away. And, you know, we've got children. So, like, we just never managed to get it together to have the same week off to go and do it. And so when I was chatting to Roxana about making the film, I was like, I have to phone Lisa. Like, there's no way I can do this without Lisa. And bless her, I spent the whole of that 6 weeks sorting out kit, fitting my boat, like investigating canoe techniques and trying to figure out how we would actually do it. Lisa's an anaesthetist and spent the whole 6 weeks rearranging her rota and planning childcare. Um, but that's the reality
Hmm.
of going off on an adventure when you're a working parent. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
pretty fortunate I have a much more flexible,
Mm.
you know, my son's older. I don't need
Hmm.
to be here all the time. My husband works from
Hmm.
home, and it's much easier than being an
Hmm.
anaesthetist. Um, I think I've cycled past that quite. I've done the Hebridean cycle route, so from
Hmm.
end to end of the Hebrides. You cycle past, and you look down over this tapestry of lochs, and
Oh,
it's like 50% loch and 50% bob. And it
right.
just, I don't know why, to me, it seems really fascinating. And I just always had wondered what it would be like going through it rather than like cycling past it or driving past it on the road.
Hmm.
And then I was looking at a map and I was like, well, there are a lot of lochs and they've got little streams that connect them. And you're actually walking would be a complete pain. So
Hmm.
it makes total sense, obviously, to take a canoe.
Total sense.
And optimistically, so I couldn't find any real information. I did find a couple of forums where people had posted about canoeing somewhere in those. So there were a couple of little anecdotal bits of evidence, but there's no guidebook and there's no like information about what you're going to get. So I think the other thing that is what I admit how completely under-equipped we are. I've never been on a multi-day canoe trip before.
Oh,
And
so straight
Lisa,
into the loss then, basically.
yeah. So Lisa dropped on me right as we were starting that she'd never been in a canoe. I mean, and so she is a very experienced kayaker, and so I
Mhm.
had totally assumed that she'd done lots of canoeing as well. But obviously
Yeah.
that was wrong. But I think this is one of the really important things about a trip like that is that you can do whatever you set out to do if you give yourself enough time and enough grace to do it comfortably. I
Mhm.
mean, there is obviously a minimum amount of skill that you need
Mhm.
and practice, and you work. So we've both done loads of outdoor stuff in the hills. We're both confident navigating. We're both really comfortable wild camping.
Mhm.
You know, we're not phased by. I think we saw two people the entire time we were on the trip. And we're
Mhm.
not phased by that. We're not phased by being somewhere where there aren't lots of other people. It was a little bit.
Mhm.
I wasn't actually phased by doing the canoe trip, but I was like, oh, Emily, I really hope someone who's actually good at canoeing doesn't watch this and go, yeah, you were doing that wrong. Uh, um, so there's quite a lot of footage of us sailing in it. I
Mhm.
bought that sail, arrived 3 weeks before we set off. I'd used it for half an hour.
Wow.
Um, I watched a 10-minute YouTube video, had a go, and then set off and did it. And you know, it was fine.
Mhm.
Um, but the other thing that I really wanted to do was to have this adventure that is achievable to most outdoorsy people.
Mhm.
So I've been to a lot more out. So since Everybody Outdoors, like we go to Kendal Mountain Festival every year, and you know I watch a lot of the films, and I'm just more aware and more engaged. And so when we were
Mhm.
researching this, we discovered that at the point we started making it, there were only 3 other films, all featuring plus size women,
Oh,
that
really?
we could
Gosh.
find.
Right.
Which is where this whole thing about representation becomes,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's not just that you're not represented, it's that you really aren't represented.
Mhm.
And so I'm actually really keen to carry on making films. And the other thing that I felt in watching a lot of these films is they're very, very male gazy.
Mhm.
A lot of films about like 4 guys taking 6 weeks to go somewhere in the Himalayas.
Mhm.
I mean, this is generalizing, but you know,
Mhm.
group of guys, and they're off on a big adventure. It's taken them 4 weeks, probably reasonably expensive,
Mhm.
probably got sponsors. They're going up some massive snowy peak that no one's been up before, and they're going to ski down it. And that just doesn't engage me. It's something that's so far out
Mhm.
of anything that I will ever be able to do. Not not because of my body or anything like that.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, I've got children,
Mhm.
job, got a
Mhm.
mortgage.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, as a working mother, you don't have the luxury of 4 weeks to go to the Himalayas or the Andes or, you know, whatever it is. So I think it's really, really, really important to, I don't think good storytelling needs a really long trip to somewhere really far away. And I feel like really strongly both on environmental grounds
Mhm.
and just, well, access to that kind of time off
Yeah.
is a privilege that
Yeah.
is not afforded to most working women,
Yeah.
especially if you're a little bit older and you've got children, or
Yeah.
you're caring for your parents, or whatever.
Yeah.
Generally, you have less access to free time.
Yeah.
So it was also this thing of wanting to represent a trip that, you know, the average outdoorsy person who's confident doing stuff in Britain could think, you
Mhm.
know what, I would try something like that. They maybe
Yeah.
wouldn't try, probably
Yeah.
no spot. But
Yeah.
I'd never portaged a canoe before I went on that trip. I had no idea how long it was
Well,
going to
you're
take.
an expert in that now.
I am now, yes.
There was a lot of that going on, and I didn't even know what it was
I
before I
quite like
watched the
it.
film.
I was dreading it.
Yeah.
So portaging is where you have to carry slash drag your canoe
Mhm.
across the bits where there are water. Uh,
Mhm.
I was dreading it. But like all these things, we eventually figured out a system where we had a big bag each and a barrel with all of our kit that we wanted to keep really dry, and we would carry that to wherever, and then we would walk all the way back, and we would get our canoe and we would just drag our canoe with a rope around our waist. If you just keep moving slowly
Mhm.
forwards,
Mhm.
it's hard work, but it
Yeah.
is doable. Like, it's tiring. but
Yeah.
it's doable. And it's like, if you don't make it into a rush and you've
Yeah.
got enough food and you're not massively overcooking yourself every day because you've got some stupid notion that you need to go the furthest.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
like, oh, I've got a week off. How far can I go in my week off? I'm like, well, why don't you say I've got a week off? How much fun can I have going on this
Yeah.
journey on my week off? How much can I enjoy the landscape that I'm in? If you're just blasting through it, you don't stop and enjoy it. So
No, that is so true because you're missing half of it and you're not enjoying it because you're pushing
yeah,
yourself too hard. What I really, really loved is what you just described about that extra layer of representation because you're so right. All of these sort of outdoorsy adventure films, they're all things that are not feasible, viable for the majority of people unless that's your job and you're a filmmaker, unless that is something that you literally use all of your savings for to climb whatever mountain or whatever you want to do. It's not something that it's something we watch, we enjoy, but then, there's no relationship to it for us. There's not even a thought, oh, I
yeah,
can do
and,
that.
and I think it's something, if you are really involved in the outdoor industry,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you do all this stuff to quite a high level, that
Mm-hmm.
probably is something that's aspirational to you, but that's not something that's
Yeah.
aspirational to me.
Yeah.
And based on the feedback that I've had from the people who've seen the film, it's not
Mm-hmm.
something that's aspirational to the vast majority of the audiences
Mm-hmm.
for all of these film festivals.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just think it's really important to have that, the diversity in the stories that are told and the
Yeah.
pictures that people see.
Yeah.
Because if all that is celebrated in the outdoors is the thin white man who goes
Mm-hmm.
like further, fastest, first, explorer,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, that's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's
It's
just
not relevant to
no.
50% of the
And it
people,
makes
really.
me feel like I don't belong,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not something I even aspire to do.
Yeah.
Whereas, but I don't think good storytelling does not have to have that. You can tell a really compelling story
Mm-hmm.
about anything
Mm-hmm.
if you're creative about it. And
Yeah.
I am really fascinated by that idea of like being really creative about how you experience the environment that's pretty much local to you.
Yeah.
But I do also own environment pretty local to me, is pretty great.
Yeah, you're very lucky that you have all of that beautiful, beautiful nature around you. But
Yeah.
as you said, I think everyone can find somewhere that isn't too far to
Yeah.
explore and to. But this is the thing with the sort of watching a short film like the one you made is so much more inspiring for people to kind of say, actually, I can do this. If I put my mind to it, if I do a little bit of research, I can have a little think about what that might look like. Whereas, if you watch a film where someone goes up a mountain somewhere in Nepal, that is not something that most people can relate to. So
Yeah.
I really, really loved the film. And I think hearing you say, "Oh, I could imagine making more of those films," that's really exciting to me because I think more people need to see more of those films, definitely.
Yeah, and it's like I do sort of question whether I'm becoming some like massive narcissist, but although apparently, according to my therapist, the fact that I consider that means that I'm not. Um,
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
yeah, it's like thank you, but I really once I'd got over myself, my husband pointed out to me just as we were leaving. He was like, "Well, the worse it goes, the better the film's going to be," and I was like, "Yeah, I suppose
Well,
so."
that also point well made.
Like you need, you need like you do need an element of will they, won't they,
Yeah, bit of
to create a
drama.
little bit of tension in the story.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so kind of, and like I say, so I spent all this time talking about how I really wanted to see people represented on the screen who weren't
Hmm.
necessarily full-time experts who
Hmm.
do this stuff all the time to a really, really high level. I
Yeah.
am not a high-level canoeist. I'm pretty tenacious,
Hmm.
but not like especially technically skilled or experienced.
Hmm.
But just seeing people like that do stuff for
Hmm.
me is much more inspirational than seeing someone who's operating at that elite level
Yeah.
of the sport. But I tell you
Yeah.
what, when you're standing on the start line, you're about to set off on it, and you're like, like
Why did I do this?
questioning my life choice.
Well, I think you chose incredibly well. And I would love you to share where people can actually watch the film. When is it going to be released? We're going to put all of this and links and everything to Everybody Outdoors in the show notes, but let us know where and when people can see the film.
So, in terms of physical screenings, we have got two showings in Kendal Mountain Film Festival, which
Okay.
is towards the end of November. I think it's like the 22nd and the 24th of November. I can't remember exactly. So, Kendal
Okay.
Mountain Film Festival is two showings, and we are then going on tour
Ooh, ooh.
afterwards, which I'm really excited about actually. So we've partnered with Outkit, and we're going to be going around 6 of their stores. So the week following, so from the 25th to the 30th of November,
Uh-huh.
we will be going to Inverness, Edinburgh, Gateshead, Hathersage, Kingston near London, and
Mm,
Bristol for a
wow.
night of plus size representation fun.
I love that so much. And you know what? I think a lot of people who listen to our podcast and a lot of people who are members of Body Image Fitness, they are scattered all over the country. Um, Knowing where they might go and access a screening will be really, really helpful. So again, I'll put that in the show notes for anybody listening who wants to go and watch the film.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. It's so
Yeah,
much
so
fun when it's
like I said, the film's only about 20 minutes long.
yeah.
So we're also going to show the All Bodies on Bikes film,
Oh,
which
brilliant.
was really, again, it's about 15 minutes. I mean, that's just available on YouTube if people can't
Mm-hmm.
make it. But that film came out about the time that we were starting Everybody Outdoors. So for me, it was a really, really pivotal moment in
Mm,
sort of turning to activism,
mm-hmm.
because seeing like Marley Blonsky and Kaylee Kornhauser, just I had not appreciated the emotional impact that seeing that film was going to have on me. So that's just
Mm-hmm.
someone who's confident in their
Mm-hmm.
place in the outdoors. And
Mm-hmm.
I must have watched that film like 10 or 15 times the first week it was released.
Wow.
And I was like just completely blown away by it, and
Right.
by how seen it made me feel.
Right.
Um, so for me, that was a like the reason that we've got it in there is because it was such a pivotal moment in how I've gone about the last 4 years of my
Right.
life. The
Wow.
sort of turning from I'm just someone who goes and does all these things to I'm going to be a campaigner has been,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I have not seen that film, and I will definitely look that up because it sounds amazing.
Yeah, no, it's
Fabulous.
really, really brilliant. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then
Great.
we'll have some behind the scenes chat. So Roxana's the director's coming with me, and
That's
we'll
fantastic.
have so Roxana had also never been in a canoe. But she very sensibly hired a lovely guide who knew what she was doing to help her around.
Very helpful. I think that adds to the sense of adventure, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so however much stuff we were carrying, they were carrying all of that
Plus
and a
that
huge
equipment.
suitcase of film kit.
Yeah, this is the behind the scenes that we don't see, but
Yeah, yeah,
sort
yeah.
of question, well, how did they? Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. So
Emily, this has been so much fun. Thank you so, so much for coming on the podcast. As I said, I will link to everything I can link to in the show notes.
yep, that'd be amazing.
And people can find you on Everybody Outdoors. Have a look at the website, have a look at their socials. It's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And yeah, and maybe jump on the Facebook group as well.
Yep,
If you can.
it would be lovely to see as many new people as we could.
Yay!
And
Excellent.
if you hear the podcast and come to a film show, come and say hi.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much again. And yes, I hope as many people will check out the film and your website as possible, whoever's
That's
listening to.
amazing. Well, thanks very much for taking the time to chat. It's been really lovely.
That was my pleasure.
Right, cheers.